ヤンキースが外選手を放出してしまったことで嘆きのようなものが届いています。キャッシュマン GM とブーン監督の悲痛な声明はちょっとかわいそうだと思ってしまうと同時に、どんなに来年のチーム作りに影響がないと言っていても、左の強打者がいなくなったことは相当痛手ですよね。今回は彼らの悲痛な嘆きをメインに翻訳してお届けいたします。ぜひ最後までご覧ください。
I want to ask you now what's next for the Yankees, because that seems to be one of the big questions now that the dust is kind of settling on this record-breaking contract. Everybody's talking about a Brian Cashman plan B, how the Yankees were prepared for this happening all along, even though they did put their best foot forward. What does it look like for you?
Well, just in a macro way, Matt, I would remind everybody, I'm old enough to remember when Alex Rodriguez signed in this hotel 25 years ago. He left the Seattle Mariners in 2000. He was a 25-year-old free agent represented by Scott Boras. The next year, the Seattle Mariners won 116 games. Bryce Harper was a 25-year-old free agent who left the 2018 Nationals. The 2019 Nationals, with Juan Soto, won the World Series the next year, right? Juan Soto was a San Diego Padre in 2023. They didn't make the playoffs. This year, they might have been the second team in best team in baseball without Juan Soto. The Yankees wanted Juan Soto. It is an easier answer in 2025 with Juan Soto to put together a team. But there is a tomorrow. I think what the Yankees have to guard against, if I'm going to give some historic perspective again, is when Shohei Ohtani told the Yankees he wasn't even they weren't going to be among the finalists. They pivoted hard and quick and acquired Giancarlo Stanton. And I know people have fresh in their head how great Stanton was in the postseason. But I think the Yankees probably have regret about doing that because of what Stanton means, locking up DH, being very right-handed, being non-athletic. I do think they need to be careful here, and the idea is to put together as good a baseball team moving forward. And that might not fulfill their fans' desire for stars, but the Yankees failed a lot during the regular season as they got to the playoffs, and ultimately in the World Series because they had a lot of technical problems as a baseball team. I would think about someone like Christian Walker, who's a very good first baseman. I would think about somebody like Cody Bellinger, who I think helps them wherever they need first base, center field, left field. I would think, I'm going to throw a name out there. I am a huge Carlos Correa fan. If the Twins are trying to get out of that money, would you rather have Carlos Correa at 4 years at about $120 million, or maybe Alex Bregman at 8 at $200? I know that Correa's body might be a minefield, but he's such a good baseball player. I would take a risk if the Twins are trying to get out of that money. If I'm the Yankees, I'm thinking about making the team as long with as many good players as possible. There is no other Juan Soto in this marketplace. So the idea is just get good and remember what the 2001 Mariners looked like winning 116 games, what the 2019 Nationals looked like winning the World Series, and what the 2024 Padres look like. There is a tomorrow, but tomorrow can't be a bad decision for somebody like Jacoby Ellsbury, where when Robinson Cano left the Yankees, they pivoted into Ellsbury McCann. Those were not good decisions. Now is the moment where the Yankees have to make good decisions about good baseball players.
Woo, Joel.
That's good stuff, Joel.
Coming in hot, man.
A lot of the big players in that saga spoke yesterday for the first time publicly about the deal, including David Stearns from the Mets, who categorized his joy over being able to write a check like that in a way that I think we could all understand after having to exercise so much constraint in Milwaukee.
I think our ownership has consistently demonstrated that there's going to be resources when we need them. There is the ability for us to make baseball moves when we think that they're there to improve the team, and we're going to continue to pursue a wide variety of areas to continue to improve our team.
As far as the team left of the altar, how about this? Brian Hoke, who covers the Yankees on MLB.com. Brian Cashman saying the Yankees have plenty to do, but will be aggressive this offseason. But, quote, we're not going to be drunken sailors.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
We're not going to be drunken sailors.
So they sobered up.
Yeah. Here's Cashman and Brett Boone on the Soto sweepstakes.
At the end of the day, we competed and went above and beyond I would have ever expected us to get to try to to give him the choice to stay. But ultimately, he made a decision to go somewhere else. But I got no second guesses about how we went about it. Proud about, the franchise that we are, how we support our players, and the winning that we provide, or the efforts of winning on a year in and year out basis that we consistently provide. So I don't look back with any second guesses.
Certainly stings, knowing especially what, Hal and the organization did to try and bring him back and all the efforts that were made. So there's that immediate disappointment, but it's also sports too. Like this doesn't, the best option for us was to bring him back and plug him in and let's go. But this also doesn't prevent us from being a great team next year.
Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone. Somehow Brett jumped into my mind there.
Yeah.
I didn't say Matt Boone. Like I could get the whole Ray Boone.
Get the whole Ray, Bob.
Get the whole family in there.
The whole group in there.
Let me come at you with something here. And this is not anything that those guys said. This is nothing that I've heard. But I think there might be a sentiment in the Bronx among top management, not the fans, because the fans wanted Soto back. They don't care about spending money. But among management, that was almost like a, whew.
Well, they know.
We didn't have to write a $760 million check, and we can go spend $500 million in this year's market and maybe be a better team.
Well, phrase it this way. They knew they were going to get, if they got Soto, they had a chance to go to the World Series, right? They made their run. So let's go back a year in the past and said, now you're going to trade for Soto, and you're going to have to offer him a $760 million. Do they make that deal?
I think they keep Michael King.
Exactly. So I think they got what they wanted out of the trade. They got to the World Series. They didn't win it.
That's a good point.
And now we move on.
Yeah.
And I think here's another thing that's been said that's out there a lot too. He picked the Yankees. He picked the Mets over the Yankees for $5 million. That's not a true statement. The Mets was $765 million for 15 years. The Yankees was $760 for 16 years. That's a big difference. That's like $50-some million difference, depending on how they want to split it up.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out, because there is a lot of misinformation there.
Yeah.
A lot of Yankee fans have their noses pushed out of shape. It's like, you want to go play there for another $5 million? Who cares about $5 million? But it was more than that, to your point.
Yeah.
The length of the deal was different.
But to your point, just to put a period on it, I think they're looking at Plan B. And Booney said it all. We still have a really good team.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a really good team with a lot of question marks around it. Who's going to play first base? Who's going to play second base? Glaber's a free agent. Anthony Rizzo's a free agent. The rotation needs help. The bullpen needs help because Clay Holmes is gone. I mean, there's work to do. Yeah. If I could, paraphrase the Russo line there, you got plenty of work to do. But they are a good team. They still are a good team. Yeah. What about the state of the market? The floodgates, are they open now that Soto has signed? Or is there still some information that we need to get before all these guys can sign somewhere?
I still think, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I still think Soto's an outlier for front offices. It hasn't come back to, okay, this guy just changed the whole market for every player. I still think they sit there and go, he's out there. I'm not all of a sudden adding another $100 million to a player to think I land him to bring him closer to Soto's deal. I just don't think that's the case. So I think we're going to go through this for a couple days for guys figuring out this is where I'm going to land. They're still trying to figure out the market. I really think.
Well, I think I would agree with you on that, but I disagree with you as I did yesterday on what it does to the price of poker on everybody else, because it's raised the ceiling on everybody from guys that are in the middle of their careers to guys that are maybe even looking for one last deal before they push the setting sun back up into the sky. I do think it's raised the ceiling. So let's talk about it from the Mets standpoint. And now all the focus is on Pete Alonso, right? And I think that there were some interesting statements yesterday that David Stearns and company made expressing a desire to bring Pete back. Sure, that's a nice thing to put out there.
Been saying that for a while.
They have to say that because institutionally he's a really important guy, and in the minds of fans he's really important. Do you think that they are making that much of an effort toward bringing him back, or are they directing their attention and finances to the pitching side of things?
They need a bat behind Soto. You don't go get Soto because you're giving up Pete Alonso. There's still got to be protection behind him. And I know everybody loves Ventos, and I love him too. But he's never had to hit behind a star player and get booed because they didn't pitch to him, and now the pressure's on you. That's a different mindset.
I would also suggest that he's a better fit with his incumbent Mets than he is with the Yankees. Do you think the Yankees want to collect another right-handed power bat who's going to strike out and not play Gold Glove defense and not run particularly well? They got a litany of guys like that on that roster already.
I think he has to go back to the Mets. I think we saw him go to another level. You know how we see players go to a different level?
Yeah.
He went to a different level in the postseason. The way he performed.
He did, man. He
with
did.
the pressure on, the last of the contract, the game's on the line for the team. He owned that moment. I think he fits where they're at, and the pressure the Mets have just thrown themselves into. I'm sorry, but you go get a $700 million player, you are expected to be in the World Series.
I know we do this all the time with our little
Period.
devices, the slot machine, the shopping, the market and stuff. I think if it's not the Mets, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'd make a case that it's an even better fit for him in Phoenix. So there's a good market for him, right? It's not like he's limited to just the New York cities. There's a good market
I thought
for
the
Pete.
Yankees for a while, but then I started looking at, they got so many right-handed bats. They need a left-handed hitting first base.
For sure, for sure. All right, before we get off of this, we do
There's
have...
only one more.
There
is only
one more team we want to talk about here, and that's the freewheeling, big-spending Dodgers. This from Fabian Ardaya on X. Dodgers bringing back Blake Trinan. Doesn't mean they're done looking at relievers. They could still add another arm, including at the top of the market. Tanner Scott, Devin Williams, like, why not? Everybody's in play when you're dealing with the Dodgers' limitless largesse. Dodgers GM Brandon Gomes, this is from David Vassay. Mookie Betts preparing to play shortstop this season. Tommy Edwin would play center field. And you have said for a long, long time that the guy that makes all this mixing and matching work for the Dodgers is Mookie Betts. And here's yet another example of that.
Yeah. How many guys can you say, he played right last year, let's move him to short?
Yeah.
You know, and then at the beginning of the year last year, he was on his way to starting the All-Star game at shortstop before he got hit by the pitch that broke his hand. I mean, he's just an exceptional player. And as great as Mookie is, Tommy Edman gives him the same type of versatility. Maybe not at the same level. Let me just clarify the level. But Edman gives them versatility where they could actually say, Mookie, go back to right, which they did last year. Tommy Edman started with center when they got him from the Cardinals, and he ended up at shortstop in the World Series. They just have the flexibility in that roster to do things that is special. And yes, Mookie makes it happen.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Tanner Scott signs there and/or they trade for Devin Williams. Like, sky's the limit.
外選手が獲得できないからといって追加で1億ドル払うわけではないという言葉は説得力の塊ですね。どんなにいい選手だったとしても外選手は特別だとしないと市場が崩壊してしまいます。最もメジャー全体で見れば昨年の大谷翔平選手が今回の大騒動のきっかけになったことは間違いないでしょうね。それにしてもドジャースの言われ方面白かったですね。自由奔放に大型補強をするというパワーワードには笑ってしまいました。テオスカー・ヘルナンデス選手の確保が目下の目標だとは思いますが、佐々木朗希選手の獲得にも注目していきましょう。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。